Hey guys, this is Phoenix and I'm back with the fourth episode of my 1.7.10 Minecraft modding tutorials. I realized last episode I actually forgot to go over the mod dependencies and how they work. So let's go ahead and do that real quick before we set up the proxies. So I've already referenced it here. We did this last time. These are the dependencies and we can call them from our reference class, which we left blank. So underneath of here, we have to really do nothing but let's go ahead and add a Forge dependency so that it can't be used on a version of Forge that is earlier than our current version of Forge. So what we're going to do is we're going to say that we require this after Forge, and we want to use this specific version. So I'll go over the three different ways that you can initialize these, and we'll end up going with the third way, which is the last way, is going to say anything above this version. So the first thing that we can say is, well, there's several different ways that you can do this. First, if you want it to load before a mod, you can say before colon, and that'll load it before that mod. You can also have it where it loads after a mod, so after colon would load it after a mod. You can say requires dash before colon, which would make it so that if the other mod didn't exist, this mod would literally throw a fit. And it would have to be loaded before that. Same with if you did requires, or I'm sorry, required, R-E-Q-U-I-R-E-D, required dash after. This is actually what we're going to be using. So this is basically saying, hey, if this first mod doesn't exist, throw an error because this is not going to be fun. So basically what we want to do is we want to check for Forge. So what this is saying is, hey, check to see if Forge is installed. If not, throw an error. This checks for any version of Forge. All of them, every single one of them. If you wanted to check for a specific version of Forge, you would do @open square brace, and then you would do the current version, which I believe is 10.13.4.164. 1614? Let me double check. You can actually find this information by switching from packages to project and opening your build.gradle. It would be right here, in between the 1.7.10 and the 1.7.10. And we can go back to tutorial mod here, or I'm sorry, reference, and paste it right in here, and then close the square bracket. So now what it's saying is, hey, check to see if Forge is installed. If not, throw an error. If it is, load after Forge, but only if the version of Forge is 10.13.4.1614. Otherwise, go back to required and say you need a different version. That's basically what that says. Now, there is another way, within the final way, which is if you delete the square brace, put a comma, and open a parenthesis on that, or close a parenthesis on that. What this is saying now is, hey, you're required after Forge. If Forge is not installed, throw an error. Otherwise, if Forge is installed, load it afterwards. But only if that version of Forge is 10.13.4.1614 or later. So now it's checking to see, hey, Forge, are you at least version 10.13.4.1614? If no, hey, required, you need to throw an error and tell them to update. Otherwise, you good. It'll work on anything 10.13.4.1614 or up, if there was a later version for Forge. So that's how that works, and that's the same principle that applies to, like, if we had tutorial mod 1 installed, we could say, if we want to add another one, we would put a semicolon on the end of that, and then we could say, okay, so I want you to load before colon, then the mod ID of the first one, which probably would have been tutorial mod 1. So load before tutorial mod 1, but only if that version is 0.0.1 or later. So it would be comma that. That would say, hey, check to see if tutorial mod 1 is installed. If it is, check to make sure the version's right, and then load before it. But if it's not installed, don't throw an error, just ignore this line, because it's not required. And that's how dependencies work. So that would be the dependency statement to get it to load after the version of Forge that we are currently working on. A lot of other people are using 5885, which is the other default version of, or the recommended default version. So, but we're using 1614, so we're going to go and throw that in there. And that's all there is to setting up a mod dependency. So I guess the next thing we need to do is create a proxy. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to create a interface, a abstract class, and 2 standard classes. We're going to do this underneath of a folder that we're going to create right now. So underneath of packages up here at the top, we're going to go to right above reference where it says your package name tutorial mod or whatever. Create a new package. Name that proxy. Underneath of proxy, we're going to create a new Java class and choose interface from the scroll down menu. Inside of here, we're going to name this iProxy. Underneath of that, what we're going to do is make sure that it just literally stays as is. We just want an interface. That's all we need. And then we're going to make another one for common proxy. So right click on proxy, new Java class, common proxy. Underneath of common proxy, this is our go-between between the server and client side. If we put something here, it would be entirely, it would apply to server and client side. So we're going to do public abstract class, and we're going to implement our iProxy handler. Okay, now we need to create a new Java class, and we are going to create a client proxy, and we're going to, I want to say extend. Yeah, this is going to extend. So extends common proxy. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to create a new Java class, and we're going to name this one server proxy. And we are going to here extend common proxy again. Okay, so that's basically our proxy setup. We do actually have to go back to reference and say public, okay, why not? Public static final string. We're going to actually call for our client proxy class. And we also want to grab our server proxy class. Okay, so here what we want to do is we want to grab our com dot package name dot tutorial mod dot proxy dot client proxy. So we're basically naming the path to our client proxy. So we're doing com.ryodev.tutorialmod.proxy, and then we're calling for our client proxy. And it's the exact same thing for this one down here. The only difference is that we're changing client to server. We don't need this. There we go. And then back down here in tutorial mod, we now can actually have the ability to make the server proxy. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a new annotation for @cited proxy. Underneath the cited proxy, it wants a client side. So we're going to feed it our reference dot client proxy class, and it also wants a server side. So we're going to feed it our reference dot server proxy class. And then here we actually need to give it something to work with. So we're going to say, how exactly do I state that again? I believe it's pretty simple. It's just like public static proxy proxy. I think so. We'll see. It'll throw an error otherwise. Public static proxy proxy. Yeah, that's all we had to do. And with that, our proxy has been entirely established and set up. So now there's that. Anyway, that's it for this episode. I hope you guys learned something, and I will see you guys in the next episode.